album gained us a lot of fans and turned us into like a real band. I remember thinking it's hard to imagine that any new songs could ever kind of like become part of that family, the way that like Oxford Comma was, you know. And it kind of seemed hard for me to believe that we could ever kind of like add to that.
My name's Ezra, I'm 25.
Rastem, I'm 25.
Chris, I'm from America.
Chris, I'm 35.
Singing, and I play guitar and organ.
I play bass.
I play drums in Vampire Weekend.
Alright, I'm ready when you are.
The first time we started formally working on it, going to the studio, renting a practice space and stuff, that was January 2009, just like a few weeks after we'd gotten off the road.
We recorded about 4 or 5 songs worth of drum parts. And then we kind of decamped to a home base not too far from here, in a neighborhood called Rambo. And we started basically building up from the drum tracks.
Contra. 1. Indicado posición, dirección. Lo estrellaron contra la puerta.
As a student of law, I can tell you that contra, when used in a citation clause, indicates that the cited authority directly contradicts the immediately preceding proposition.
I mean, I kind of remember us talking in like general terms about what a good album title would be, and I remember one time Rastem suggesting something in another language, like a single word, and then so at some point after that, Contra popped into my head, which obviously fit those criteria. That was before we even made the album, I think, so we had a name that could work. And I think it's interesting when it turns out that way, because then you have a lot of time to kind of ruminate on all the different things that the title could mean, as opposed to making a whole album and being like, what would best represent that? It was kind of cool to have that as the starting point. I think all our albums' place is very important, and sometimes it's hard to boil it down to one place. When I first started thinking about like things that I personally was interested in for the next album, I was definitely getting more curious about California as a place, I think for a variety of reasons. One, us just touring more, spending more time there. I was also at the time I was dating a girl from Northern California, so I was like seeing that part of the state more. So definitely there was some feeling of like looking to other places.
Very nice to be here.
We've been asked the question a lot, like, oh, because you toured, did you like pick up all sorts of new influences? And it just like sounds like such a goofy idea, because it just, you know, makes it seem like you're doing some like ethnomusicology and like, you know, like meeting some like as if every place we went we'd meet some random person and they'd like take us to like some cool bar to go see like some local flavor, and we like, oh shit, we gotta but maybe in some bigger picture way, being on the road a lot does affect the way you think. It's just hard to put into words. One thing's for sure is that Contra was almost entirely recorded in New York, a little bit in Mexico.
One thing that I think back fondly of when thinking about making Contra is going down to Mexico and escaping a harsh New York winter in about March. We worked in Coyoacan And that's right near Frida Kahlo's Blue House, so I even think fondly back to taking a break from recording, going out in the beautiful weather, getting to experience that. And
Did you go to that food market?
we went to a food market, we got iced coffees, that made me really sick, but even that made me feel very fondly about the trip.
That's good. It's hot too.
I thought it would be interesting to show you this keyboard, which I used on the album Contra and the song Contra and also the song Horchata. This keyboard quickly became my favorite instrument. There's so much possibility there. You can kind of do anything you want. And the reason is it has this microphone built in. And what the microphone lets you do is sing or create some noise for just 3 seconds. But then it lets you take those 3 seconds and loop them. It becomes like a homogeneous texture, and it actually does complex stuff, even though it looks like a toy. So. Okay, usually what I do every night before we play is to sing just one note into this keyboard. And then that's what I use for horchata.
The earliest part of that song that ever existed was just the melody and the opening lines. And I kind of remember coming up with that sometime after we graduated from college, because I do have memories of singing that when I had a job and I be in the morning and be in a good mood because I just drank coffee and like sing that and be like, oh, maybe this can go on our second album. But literally just having the melody, like no ideas for arrangement or anything. And I don't know why, I guess I was probably just thinking about horchata because I get it a lot at Mexican restaurants in New York. Oh, I think I got a new song. Maybe I have a chorus that steps up like. That's about as far as I got.
Any lyric ideas yet?
I've been thinking a lot about the tour and getting lots of inspirations and writing new songs, and I had one idea for a title, California English, something like bounced across the Saudi satellite dish through your brain to California English. I thought that was kind of witty. I remember coming up with the initial like lyrics and melody again on tour behind the first album, being in London, staying at some like really shitty hotel, and waking up like super early at like 7 a.m. and just like walking around the streets, and that popped into my head. I don't know, I'd probably come across the phrase California English because it's like, it's a semi official term in linguistics, you know, it's because obviously it just to denote certain characteristics of a uniquely Californian dialect of English. So I guess that was already on my mind, so it made sense that would kind of pop in as the lyrics to a song.
When we were working on California English, Ezra said he had an idea that the video could be California English.
Holiday, oh holiday, and the best one of the year. Dozing off underneath my sheets while I cover both my ears.
Now we had the song Holiday before the Dizzy Rascal song came out, but after all the other millions of songs called Holiday.
On a summer's day, never seemed so clear.
Diplomat's Son was about a paragraph long short story that Ezra sent me maybe 6 years ago.
Senior year of college.
There's a sample from Hustle, from the album Kala, or Carla, as you might say. I remember the first time I heard her music, and I must have been about 21, and I think I did have a feeling of like, this is the music I've been waiting for, you know, for a while, and I felt like it was tapping into next level vibes.
That's this like really small history book that my dad had, and I always thought the name was really cool, and also thought it was an interesting idea. It was written in the 70s, and it was specifically about the era in Japanese history when they basically expelled all foreigners and stopped using guns and kind of reverted back to the sword. It was our idea to have our friend Jenny be the main character. That was kind of the initial idea, that it should be her playing tennis. Joe Jonas had been to a show before, and he was a fan, so he was easy to get. Jake, I guess Jake was also a friend of the director's, but when he came by, he told us that he liked the album, and that was why he did it. So we're like,
sword's grown old and rusty, burnt beneath the rising sun. It's locked up like a trophy, forgetting all the things it's done. And though it's been a long time, you're right back where you started from. I see it in your eyes, and now you're giving up the gun.
Hi, we're Vampire Weekend on the TV Guide Network. Our next album, Contra, comes out January 12th, 2010.
Check it out. Nice.
now that we're working on another album, kind of like familiar feelings come back about how stressful it can be to make an album, and remembering at that time, you know, like everybody always puts so much emphasis on your second album, especially, you know, especially when in the kind of like world of like, you know, angry, like mean-spirited criticism, there is always this feeling that a band that gets a lot of success on their first album is just destined for failure. And as much as, I can only speak for myself, as much as I knew that we had some great songs for the next album, I still could never totally ignore that like looming, you know, negative expectation that's in the atmosphere, I think, for every band after their first album. So that definitely caused stress, and definitely, but was also somewhat inspiring. I think also lent the feeling that you know, that we really had to work hard on the album.
The music that we make together, that like the DNA survives.
Yeah, like a song like Giving Up the Gun, I wondered, is this just too different than anything that we've done before? And then, you know, by the time we'd been touring behind Contra and playing it live, you know, you see when we start playing that song, you know, people get psyched about it in the same way they get psyched for older songs, and it's really nice to feel that way, because it makes the future, whether it's the album we're working on right now or even, you know, fourth, fifth, whatever albums, seem kind of totally wide open, and that's exciting. If I felt like we had to keep like rehashing the first album, I'd be like terrified, because I don't think we'd know how to do it. We'd probably just start to just make worse and worse versions of the first album. So now I know we don't have to do that, and it feels good.